He's helped me along in this recovery process. I'm gonna break his anonymity, get myself in trouble, get him in trouble right now. It's my sponsor. With nothing further, I give you Rich Dene from Youngstown, original Youngstown Groove NA.
How is everybody? It's a good day to be alive. It's a good day to be clean. With those of you who care to help me open this meeting, this part of the meeting with the Serenity Prayer. Who keeps us clean?
God grants us serenity to accept things we cannot change, courage to change things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
I had a chance to reflect about coming here today and participating in the recovery process, and I started to do that with some seriousness when Adam asked me to come and speak. But between the time he came and asked me to speak and when he asked me to focus on a particular subject, it's not been my habit, it's not been my training to think about what I want to say. I don't do anything special to try to get ready. I don't go through any kind of ritual. So when I get to this podium, I want you to believe that I can share like Shakespeare, or that you're at Def Comedy Jam, or you're out at some nightclub and it's about entertainment. Mostly I do that because I've been witness to this podium transferring people into something they're not. And I don't like to present myself as anything less than authentic than what I am. The other reason I do that and make a deliberate attempt to be conscious about that is that that's what I was trying to do when I got here. If my predecessors even gave me any kind of direction about coming up and respecting this situation, it was talk about what you know about it and speak from your heart. Make it just that simple. But like I said, I'm an addict. And I'm an addict from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet. And that brings with it certain characteristics. It brings with it a certain nature. It brings with it certain liabilities. And I think about that. I've had a chance at this point in my journey to reflect on what it was like when I got here, as opposed to what it's like on a day-to-day basis, and all that stuff that's going on in the middle. Some things have changed dramatically from that point of view. Some things are still the same, and it's just good to be part of that process, to have remained in that process for a while now. My clean date is September 13th, 1983. And I've been at this for a minute. I try to give that fact its proper weight and its proper due. Sometimes when I say that, people look at me sideways, and I really don't know what's going on in their head and interpretation in terms of what clean time means. But I know I couldn't receive any kind of recovery unless I had some. I really couldn't. So I try to give it its proper weight. It means something to me to have come up out of the madness and by the grace and by some hard work and by the sanity of my predecessors who had the sense enough to write it down, that I didn't have to go back to that nightmare that I left. See, there are times when there's a piece of me that sometimes when I'm in a situation or I'm in a meeting or, I'm sharing from the podium, I'd like to see you all, rolling in your chairs laughing and ha 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 and, that's really funny. And but here's the basic reality. I don't know about you. I have no idea what your disease did to you. But there wasn't nothing shit funny about what mine did to me. There was nothing remotely humorous about where my disease took me almost from the beginning. There was just, I'd like to tell you that, I was the class clown or wasn't it? But almost from the beginning, my disease was about its very nature. It wanted to put me in my last clean shirt. And it really didn't care how it did that. It didn't care whether I was obsessed or compulsed at the time with alcohol, drugs, lust, money, manipulation. It didn't respect that. It didn't respect whether what I was trying to get up in me came from a Pfizer or it came from the back alley. Didn't give a fuck. What it did care about, again, almost from the beginning, was its ability to lie and manipulate and tell me, even though you have a glimpse of clarity that you're insane, I still love you most. Never told me the price I was going to pay for the illusion. And I think that one of its greatest characteristics, at least in my case, and I want you to know, since he asked me to speak, I'm going to share my experience. Might not look like yours. But for me, one of the greatest characteristics of the thing I carry around in my spirit is its ability to deceive. It sometimes someone speaks to me in a voice that's very familiar. It's like that old Oz movie, when they're trying to get to the castle or wherever they're going to see the wizard, and the wicked witch says, we need to slow them down. We need to put something in their path, something that's pleasing to the eye. My disease is insidious. It'll tell me, it'll talk to me. It'll never want me to see what the real reality is. That's what I suffer with. And I tell you that by way of identification and qualifying, but I don't want to stray too far from what I was asked to come here to do. And that's share my experience on one of the battle cries and one of the things that the warriors that I was so blessed to come up under when I got here, and that's don't use no matter what. And I tell you that advisedly. It was not a cute and clever cliche that we wore to area service picnics and walked around in t-shirts that said don't use no matter what. It wasn't like that. It wasn't on bumper stickers that we put on the back of our SUVs and minivans and all the things that some of us are blessed enough to get restored to. When I got here, that don't use no matter what, it was an absolute battle cry. It was a fundamental, basic tenet of what those folks were trying to do. And for me at the time, don't use no matter what was totally alien to me. What do you mean don't use? I I had a lot of suspicions when I arrived here. I thought that any group that would invite me and welcome me to be a part of, these people are really, it was like the old Groucho Marx comment. I'm always suspicious of any group that would have me as a member. Because you people were doing things that were totally alien to my way of life. Hugging each other, men or women. I was from the city, Center Avenue. If I hugged somebody on Center Avenue, I was probably in a fight and trying to rob them. That's the only time I let you up in my space. Don't approach me like you're familiar with me. That's not the spiritual thing I'm trying to live right now. What I'm trying to live right now is you got some dope, you straight, then we might interact. They kept telling me over and over, every meeting I went to, every discussion group I was involved in, every time they asked me to come out for coffee, no matter where I went, that's what I heard. Don't use no matter what. Well, what about if don't pick up? Well, I just don't pick up. I got a headache. Well, shooting a bag of dope ain't gonna solve it. Listen, no matter what, don't use. Well, what do you want me to do? Well, keep coming back, go to meetings, talk to somebody, tell the truth and quit lying. How do you know I'm lying? Because your lips are moving. Because you're like me. No, I'm not like, yes you are. No, I'm not. I've been to the university. I have a degree. I was a teacher. Yeah, and every time you left school, you used. After you told your little kids that when they go on the summer vacation and send you back a postcard so you can know where they and the family are so you could back the fucking truck up and relieve them of all their goods. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Some of you know that it's a nightmare. Because some of you remember being on your knees and you weren't praying. Or maybe I need to get graphic. I wasn't the only one. What I'm trying to tell you is this disease took me to my knees, and when I was there, it wasn't about trying to invite God into my life. Mm-hmm. And I still carry it around in me, in my spirit. It strikes at the oddest times. I don't want you to think that I walk around in some kind of Zen meditative state and everything is like, ooh, let's sail off to Puerto Vallarta. I have a disease that for real. Sometimes I have to address it and put it in a cartoon character. And for me, what works is Clark Kent. And my disease, like Attic Man in the phone booth. There are times when I'm just, blah, 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 and sailing along and something will come over me and he jumps out the phone booth, takes off that Clark Kent glasses, rips off that business suit, and da-da-da! I'm still trying to kill you. I'm still determined to put you on your last clean shirt. And the only way I know how to even begin to deal with that is to get out of the way. And sometimes that gets back to that most basic, fundamental battle cry that I first embraced when I got here. No matter what he looks like, no matter how he comes at me, no matter what he's trying to tell me, don't pick up, no matter what. try to make a decision, try to get some help, try to be available, try to stay in position that when the answer appears, that I recognize it when it shows up. I really can't begin to tell you what the program of Narcotics Anonymous has done for me. And I'm not going to be up here too long, and I can't be. I have some health issues that don't allow me to stand for too long. Like I said, I got here before our basic text was publicized. I came in the rooms in September of 1983, and the basic text, as we know it today, it wasn't even publicized at that point or distributed. And I was fortunate enough to be involved with a whole lot of people who were trying to live this program on a daily basis, the best that they knew how. Well, what we had a few IPs, we had a little white book, the introductory text and all that, and it worked. But they were fortunate enough to let me Velcro myself to them. But here's even the truth about that. I didn't have anywhere else to go. My disease had rendered me real allergic. You know, I was one of those addicts that suffer from allergies. Every time I used, I broke out in homelessness. You know, I broke out in lawlessness. I broke out in unpredictability. I broke out and assumed a position. You know, I'd be walking around like this, you know, wearing that jewelry, you know, but I knew something was wrong. My situation was that I didn't know what to do about it. Anybody with a modicum of intelligence knew that the way I was living was desperate. It was off the charts. But I didn't have the ability to hook up the two. I either couldn't listen, I didn't want to listen. I had no critical thinking ability to say, hey, maybe because you're putting this stuff inside you and not dealing with your issues and not being responsible and blah, 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 all the things that have been revealed to me. Maybe that's why you keep going to Western Psychiatric Hospital. Maybe that's why you keep going to Western Pennsylvania State Prison. Maybe that's why you keep ending up in Beaver and Allegheny County and jail. Maybe that's why you keep becoming an honorable man. You know what I mean by an honorable man? Yes, Your Honor. No, Your Honor. You don't understand, Your Honor. You know, can you give me? That's where my disease took me, over and over and over, until one of them in Allegheny County said, "You know what? If I ever see you back in my courtroom, I'm gonna build a prison hospital and put you in it." And then he threw me out of the state of Pennsylvania. I didn't leave this state voluntarily. They didn't say, look, we can run this state without you. We're going to try to run it without you. We prefer that you leave. It wasn't like that. They told me if I didn't find another place to live, I'd spend my life in their penal system. They sent me to a facility here, again in the state, and from there I went to the state of Ohio, where I've lived for the last about 28 years. It was over there that folks started to talk to me in a language that I understood. And quite frankly, it wasn't about, again, the using, but I started focusing on what these people were talking about some of the stuff that was coming up before they used, and then how they felt about stuff, and what happened to them as a result of stuff, and that's when I guess I started coming out of the fall. I guess that those really deep-seated pathways in my brain began to clear up a little bit, and I began to listen to them. And again, one of the fundamental, basic repetitious over and over things that they were talking about is no matter what's going on with you, Richard, don't pick up, don't use. Call somebody, get to a meeting, tell somebody what's happening with you, and don't use. The other thing about that is trying to get involved in that and trying to live that. Here's what happened for me. I began to think about other things. I began to get involved with other things. I was one of those people that if the light went on at the meeting house, I was there. Basically because I didn't have anywhere else to go. I was at the end of the road. I was hurt enough. I was beat up enough. My disease had left me defenseless enough that almost anything you guys were doing was better than where I'd come from. Not almost, everything that you guys were doing was better than where I'd come from. But I had some mysteries going on in my dome, and some of them were absurd. I could not understand why you people kept meeting in the summertime and drinking coffee. You know, laugh if you want to, but Attic Man was up in here. It's June. Can't we get some Kool-Aid up in here? I mean, you know, and not just any Kool-Aid. I wanted some red Kool-Aid. And I'd go to a couple meetings and I'd say, you know, share what's going on with you today. Well, what's going on with me today is I want to know why we can't have red Kool-Aid. And people start looking at me sideways, you know. And when you look at me sideways, again, because I'm an addict, see, it's not my first nature to look back at you sideways. My first nature is to start thinking about burning down your village. You know, chopping your head off. You know, you look at me sideways and talk to me out the side of your neck. You know, it's not about, oh, I love you anyhow. It's about, okay, yeah, we can go now. We can go outside right now. And if I find out where you live, you know, I won't use, but I will burn down the whole building. Like Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven. Right. You see that? I'll come back and kill all you son of bitches. Over drinking coffee in the summertime. I was sick. I was totally obsessed with self. And that's the way it started to come out in me. Here's what my sponsor did. He said, why don't we start a meeting and we'll serve Kool-Aid? I said, okay, can we have red Kool-Aid? He said, yeah. And I'm trying to point out the obsession. And he said, well, what flavor? I said, red. And this is what he said to me that finally let me put that down. He said, Richard, red is a color. It's not a flavor. I put it down. What am I trying to tell you? He let me come to the threshold of my own intelligence. He let me work through that. He knew I'd get there, but he wasn't about the business of telling me, sit down, shut up. I mean, he told me that, not in those words. He kept telling me, you know what, you need to be quiet. He never told me to shut up. But he kept telling me over and over, be quiet. There's a difference between telling somebody to shut up and suggesting that they be quiet. And that difference lives in our spirit. Mm-hmm. When I suggest to you that you be quiet, what I'm really suggesting is that you let all that weird stuff in your head die its own natural death so you can begin to listen. One of the things I've learned and experienced in this program that when I'm truly listening, because God has cleared some pathways in my dome, I don't have any other thoughts of my own in my head when I'm really listening. Mm-hmm. I've also learned that if I'm living up in this dome, when I'm up in here just by myself and none of you can get in, I'm hanging out with a convicted felon. I've parachuted and dropped behind enemy lines. If I'm living up in here, I'm behind enemy lines. I'm at risk. And I do the things that my predecessors suggested of me to get out of that space. And almost invariably, all the time, over and over. And I can't emphasize this. They told me that no matter what's going on with me, don't pick up. I got a chance to see that because they let me hang out with them after meetings, before meetings. They let me go on service calls with them. And I'm not talking about structured service or area service or any of that other good stuff we do. I'm talking about just being in service to one another and being in service one-on-one with one another. And they saw me trying to live this program. I've had some amazing moments like the addict before me shared. One of them for me was finding out my sponsor was human. My very, very first sponsor. We went to a meeting and he's talking to his sponsor. We're outside the meeting, smoking or, doing what we do. And I hear him tell his sponsor, and he said it very casually, I don't mean nonchalantly, but he said it in a way and in a tone that made me really realize that this was a conversation they might have had before and they're okay talking about this. And he says to his sponsor, I'm thinking about killing my wife. And my grand sponsor at the time says, well, you haven't, have you? He said, no. He said, okay. Why? And they started talking. And they started working some stuff out. And it has to happen. And he didn't do that. He came to his senses. But what they told me was that maybe here's a guy that I really need to try to get close to because I have a lot of same kind of thoughts in terms of because I don't want to turn that stuff in on me, that anger or whatever, that if I'm honest, that if I'm truthful, that if I can tell somebody what's going on with me on a daily basis, that I might be able to get this thing up off me. That was a real amazing moment for me. And it drew me closer to those people, and it's worked for me almost every day since. In that same vein, with that reflective piece, I often think about what I really want to get across when I get a chance to speak and tell you what this program has done for me, because I love the dance that we do here at Narcotics Anonymous. I really, really do. I'm not a hell fellow, well, Matt. I'm not one of those people that you can look at and think that's approachable, and I don't apologize for that. This is the face God gave me. I'm dealing with it. So you will too. Sometimes I, and again, in an attempt to be authentic, I don't invite everybody into my madness from the jump, from the beginning. I've never been that way, and I'm still not that way now. That has led to some dynamics in the last few years that sometimes are amusing, but always effective. I got a couple guys that I sponsor now that how that whole situation came about is kind of unique. And when I think about it, a couple things emerge. They're really two different people. And see, I got 4 kids, 7 grandkids, and a great-grandchild. And I'm still amazed at how all different they are. Because see, they all come from the same stock. My 4 kids all come from the same mother. Well, why is one a Republican and why is one Louis Farrakhan? What? I don't understand that. One's a fire-breathing and that's where I got to I'll burn your village down if you. And the other one is, well, I think George Bush did, but those are outside issues. My point is, in that relationship, in that sponsor relationship, I got one of these guys that's real curious, why? Always asking me things that he already knows the answer to. You know people like that? I know some of you do. Why is that tradition written like that? Because it is. Why do we do this? How come you believe that? And the first time he approached me, it was like he was real familiar with me. Like he knew me for, an addict, man, up in my head, I'm saying things like, hey, back up. Your hat may be on backwards, but you don't know me. You got that Laker jerseys on, but hold up, partner. You don't know me like that. But he kept over and over and over. But even while we're talking, I'm trying to tell him, listen, if you come to me at any given time, I'm gonna give you the best I have. And that relationship has blossomed not only effectively, but with a whole lot of love and respect and admiration, and I just really care about this guy. But he's heard me say it a lot. No matter what's going on with you, don't use. Stay in position. The other guy is he's just the opposite in terms of it's like a sponge. Just wants to absorb it. And I'm not talking about just me and our relationship. But he's just on fire for this program. He wants to listen. He wants to learn. He wants to take all this stuff in. He wants to not go back to those places where we were. And all of those relationships, almost all of them that have been effective in my life and in this program, have been predicated on that number one spiritual principle that is applied in the first step. No matter what's going on in your life, no matter what decision you have to make, no matter what happens when life shows up, and I'm guaranteeing you that if you stop using, life is going to show up. And if you made a decision to be abstinent, you can't medicate it away anymore. But it's going to show up, no matter what decision you have to make. Don't use. If I walk outside right now, and Beyonce's out there in a Maserati with my passport and my name in it and $10,000 in cash, I got a decision to make, right? I mean, why are you laughing at me? It could happen. It could happen. But the point is, I got a decision to make. Tell me how using is going to help me make that decision. Especially an effective decision. For real. Well, what's your point? You have no idea what no matter what means. Some of you might. Some of you have been here for a minute now, have faced some no matter what. It might come disguised as a separation. It might come disguised as a divorce. It might come disguised as the death of a loved one. It might come disguised as a $1,000 a month raise at work. See, because no matter what doesn't mean just no matter what challenge or no matter what heartbreak or no matter what could come disguised as that new grandchild. It can come disguised as that child who wins a scholarship to the University of Pittsburgh, which means that you got some discretionary dollars now. No matter what might mean that you won the lottery, even though you might have some issues with gambling. No matter what comes in a lot of disguises. But to deal with it, it only has one name: abstinence. abstinence. If I could leave you with some hope, if I could leave you with some hope. Some hope. I was talking to one of the people that I've come to love and respect earlier in the week, and we were talking about what we would hope take place at today's gathering is that we reach somebody. That if we could give one person some hope, some reason to keep coming back and exploring this process, some reason to change their habits and to change their behaviors and to change their thought patterns, to begin to look for a new way of life. This is where I found that hope, here in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. Right here, almost 28 years ago. I just want to tell you, like I said earlier, that I love the dance that we do here. I love being part of the process. I think I'm at a point in the journey that it's time for me to go sit down, and I tell folks that. And Narcotics Anonymous has taught me really how to really be okay with myself and not try to make a fool of myself by espousing and trying to stand up for non-existent virtues. My recovery is built on that simple tenet. And I want to tell you, and I hope you take this in the spirit that it's offered, I'm done using. And if you can't say that, maybe you need to take a look at why you can't say that. But I'm telling you, I'm done. That decision is made. I am not going to pick up no matter what. My spine is collapsing in on itself. I'm in constant, chronic, severe pain on a daily basis. It affects my spirit. It affects how I interact sometimes. And there are even times when I just want to be relieved of it. Anybody understand what I'm saying? There are times when will you please let me the fuck alone? This is no. So my gratitude is to my predecessors. And if I have any kind of vision around that, it's only because I stand on the shoulders of giants. Giants who sit down and put this program together because they knew we were coming. And one of their first tenets was, no matter what happens, no matter how good it gets, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how indifferent it gets, don't pick up, and you'll be all right. You may not be good, but you'll have a hope that it gets greater later. You know, you may not go home to June Cleaver and the 3-bedroom with the picket fence and Fluffy, the Labrador. Did they name Labradors Fluffy? But you don't have to use. Your spine may collapse in on itself, but you don't have to use. I believe in that. Not only do I believe that, I believe in that. There's a difference. When you become a scholar of the second step, you'll pick it up. I believe in that. Don't use no matter what. I really want to thank you for your intelligent attention. I want you to know if you see me weebling and wobbling and leaning to the side, it's not because I'm trying to be hip, slick, and cool. You know, you might have to get me a chair, get me a glass of water. But I want you to know that I'm done. You people in Narcotics Anonymous have helped me make that decision. I'm done using. I'm just done. I don't want to go back. And so that's what I do. I don't use no matter what.